Hey planty friends! So today's video we're gonna do a little experiment in rescuing clearance orchids. Can I do it? How'd I do it? Let's find out. Alright, so to get started, I'm going to sanitize my plant snips as I'm going to need to be removing some roots and a dead flower spike, and I don't want to transfer any grossness from any plants that I've cut before. And here is our little baby Phalaenopsis rescue orchid, and I'm just going to cut her flower spike off as close to the bottom as I can. And this guy was pretty dry, so there's pretty much no chance it was going to reflower. You can see the leaves here are very floppy, very dehydrated. That's not good for an orchid. So today's mission is to get these guys rehydrated. Now this bigger Phalaenopsis orchid, and you can see I've already got it soaking. I'll talk about that in a second. But this bigger guy I've had for a couple months, and it was just starting to look a little dehydrated, but you can see that it's got some root growth. So it was on its way to being healthy, and I just wanted to give it a little boost today along with the new rescue baby. So I just have the roots of this Phalaenopsis soaking in a mix of filtered water and black tea, just plain old black tea like that comes in a tea bag. And I picked up this tip from Michael's Orchids here on YouTube. I'm gonna link the video that I watched, it's excellent. And just a note, you're gonna want that water to be about room temperature, not hot, so you can just cold steep it. And that little nub in the middle of the crown there is a new leaf. So here is the little Phalaenopsis orchid, and this is after soaking it overnight. So you can see some of the roots have greened up nice, and that's a great way to tell that those are healthy roots, whereas all of these black and mushy roots, those are no good, and we're going to need to cut those off with our sanitized snips. So I'm just going to show you what I actually cut off of this guy, and then I'll show you what we end up with at the end. You can see that there's a few different shades to the healthier roots. Some are green, and those are the ones that were in the soil and are able to intake water. The gray ones at the top, those were aerial roots. Those were never in the soil to begin with, so I'm going to leave those out when I repot this as well. And then those yellow roots in the middle are actually just yellow because the sun didn't quite get to them. Orchid roots are able to photosynthesize, and those just didn't get any sun. So they're actually healthy, they're just not green. So here's what we have left over after that little haircut. And I think that that's enough to give this guy a fighting chance. That's where we cut the original flower spike off. And you can see that the leaves have gotten a little more stiff and healthy looking. So far, so good. Now I'm going to move on to another tip that I picked up from YouTube, this time from Miss Orchid Girl, which is an amazing channel. Highly recommend her. So what we're gonna, well, first we're gonna move last night's dinner box out of the way. Then we're gonna take the nozzle of this spray bottle, stick the tube right into my hydrogen peroxide bottle, and spray the roots and let them sit and fizz for a few minutes. I guess there's some debate over whether this is necessary or not, but I trust Miss Orchid Girl. So it's time to pot some things, so obviously Jack's got to get all up in the way. I'm just going to put this bigger Phalaenopsis in the Espoma Organic Orchid Mix, and I'm going to put a few strands of sphagnum moss inside of that mix as well, just to help retain a little bit more moisture. I feel like this guy was getting a little dehydrated in a regular orchid mix without any moss in it, but it was also not doing good in just moss. So this is going to be my happy medium, and we're going to see how that goes. So I'm just going to try to get this guy upright. It tends to like to lean. It's got less roots on one side of it, and I'm sort of working on helping it with that. But if anybody has any solutions or tips, I am all ears. So please put them in the comments below. I do not know a whole lot about orchids. I am definitely a beginner, so this is more of a experimental video on how I did things, and not so much a I'm an expert and you should listen to me thing, because really I'm not an expert on anything. You probably shouldn't listen to me ever. So I'm just putting this little Phalaenopsis in moss and without any bark or anything else, and that's just because, you know, it's got a very small root structure right now, and I want to keep a really close eye on how much water it's getting and how it's doing. So for now, it's going to go back in its original pot just with some moss. And now that I've got these guys both potted up, I'm gonna take you guys through some updates. So we're gonna pick up in a second in 2 months' time, and I have since repotted the smaller orchid in some regular medium. So first is the big Phalaenopsis orchid. Look at all those new roots. You can see like all of the root growth there, and that leaf has shot up quite a bit, so it's doing all right. And here's the little guy. So you can see that middle leaf has also shot up quite a bit on this plant. You can also see that I'm starting to lose possibly 1 to 2 of those lower leaves, but that's pretty normal. As leaves grow on the top out of the crown, you may lose some of those bottom leaves, especially the ones that were underneath an original flower spike. And while we're on the subject of flower spikes, I do bring you good news. You see that little nubby thing right there? See how it's getting pointier as the days go on? That is how you know that you've got yourself a flower spike and not just a new root. I did it, you guys. I got her this far. Let's see if we can get her to flower. I'm so excited. So I want to know, have you guys rescued an orchid? Do you have horror stories? Do you have success stories? Let me know in the comments if you feel like sharing, and we can all have a weirdo orchid people chat together, because that's what we do here, right? Stay weird. I love you guys, and I'm going to see you super soon. I have so many videos coming at you. I'm up to my eyeballs in editing, and I couldn't be happier. Have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you soon.